Okay, this video explains the overall use of myitlab. Again, myitlab is an assessment tool used to assess your knowledge or your understanding of Microsoft Office. In this document, I explain the overall structure of how we're going to use myitlab in this class. There are also some frequently asked questions that you can obtain from the document that's online on Canvas. Okay, so the overall use of myitlab. The first thing you'll notice is that once you get into myitlab, you're going to come in and it's going to look like this. Okay, once you get to this window, you will always click on course materials and never click on the assignment calendar. The assignment calendar can be confusing if you look at it because there will be take-homes for certain rows in the class and then regular labs. So by clicking on the course materials folder, you will see this played out in a series of folders. This document explains in detail what all these folders are used for. Okay, so here we have a training folder. For every week that we go into the lab, there will be a training for that particular lab. The trainings are designated TR for Word Processing 1, Word Processing 2, 3, Excel 1, Access 1, PowerPoint 1. So each week there will be a training for that particular lab. There is a video that explains exactly how to use the training, but in this case we just want to see the overall structure of it. Please note that every training will be associated with a lab that will have the same suffix on it. So when we go to the lab folder, in the lab folder, there's also lab 1, W1 for word processing, lab 2, W2, lab 4, E1 for Excel. So each week you will do the training for that particular lab, and then in the lab during the class you will actually do the lab. There is another video explaining to you exactly how to complete a lab. You see that there are 11 labs and there are 11 trainings. Now, here's where we take a little turn. There is a take-home lab folder. Every week, starting from the second lab, students will be allowed to do a take-home lab prior to the in-class lab. These students will be in a designated row. So for instance, this video displays the content of a fall semester. Please see your schedule. The content is basically the same. Here, for the second lab, in the week of September the 20th, students may complete the lab by September the 19th. That's the Monday before class. If they complete that lab by 11:59 Monday night, they will not come to the lab on Tuesday. These labs have suggested start dates, but they are all open now and can be completed anytime between now and the actual close date. So for instance, rows 5 and 6 will have a take-home the week of October the 4th. Between now and October the 3rd at 11:59, they can complete that lab and then be excluded or exempted from coming to class on October the 4th. If you do not complete the lab by that time, miss it for some reason, forget about it, you must then come to the lab regardless of what row you're in. So if you're in row 5 or 6 and you don't complete the lab, you will still have to come to the lab on the 4th. By not coming to the lab on the 4th, you will lose the points for the lab and also be marked absent for that day, which can affect your bonus points. Okay, so to go to the take-home folder, you will see that the take-home folder right now only has one lab showing because we have not designated the students in a particular row. Once we have designated the students for that row, Only the students in that row will see that particular take-home lab. Once the graduate student and I have this set up, we'll only show up for those students in that particular row. Other students will not be allowed to see it. So again, if I can reiterate, for Lab 2, starting probably next week, Lab 2 will be open for rows 1 and 2. Only the students with class codes for that row will be able to see the lab. They can get it completed by September the 19th and then not have to come to class on the 20th. If they do not complete it, I know I'm being redundant, but they will then have to come to class to complete it. Students in rows 3 through 5 will complete the lab in the lab folder. These labs will only be open for the duration of the class and cannot be opened up prior to the start of the lab. So if you're in row 1 or 2, you would not go to this folder to complete your lab for the take-home. You would complete it in the take-home folder. For rows 3 through 6, you will wait until Tuesday the 20th to come to the lab and complete it during class. During the next week, rows 3 and 4 will then have the take home. The following week, 5 and 6, and then we have the exam the week of the 11th, and then it will revert back to rows 1 and then continue on the cycle through. This is the take home lab. The other folder is the capstone folder. After completing all the lab for a particular application, you will have a capstone project. The capstone project will be done in Microsoft Office and not on the website simulator. There will be files that you will download, and by the way, these are open now. There's a video on how to do the capstones. You will download these files. You must use Microsoft Office. You will complete these files. Once you have completed the file, you will then upload the file to be graded automatically. I will give you a PDF file that will explain or give you a visual representation of what the final project should look like. That PDF file can be used as a reference to make sure that you have done everything to complete the lab. Once you have completed the lab, you upload it and it will grade it automatically. There is a video on capstones to explain the process in detail. So these are the 4 folders that you will use for this class. Now, there is a 5th folder. If you have purchased the access code with the electronic book, you have additional access to the electronic book through this website. You can simply click on the technology in action, or within the training you can click on the Office ebook and have access to it. Alright, there is a link here for grades, but I will publish your grades in a spreadsheet, which brings me to that next point. For your grades for my IT lab, what I will do is post your grades anonymously by that 4-character code that you've given me. The lab percentage scores will be here, followed by how many points you get for that particular lab. What I will do for these labs is any score will be rounded up to the next 10%. So if you score 91%, I will round that up to 100% and give you the full 15 points for the assignment. You will see down here that a student here scored a 75%. I rounded that up to 80% and gave them 80% of 15. 91% and 100% receive full credit. So if you miss 1 or 2 questions on the lab, it will not affect you. If you miss several questions on the lab, you may lose 1, 2, or 3 points. In the end, I am rounding everything up because when we get into my IT lab, you will see that it is meticulous and you must pay close attention. By doing so, you will have scores of 100 and 100. But if you don't and you miss 1 or 2 questions, I am setting this up so it will not penalize you severely. I will also do the same thing for the capstones. I will round it up to 10% and then round it up to 10% again. So in this case, if you get an 81, you will receive full credit for your capstone. The nice thing about myitlab, the assessment tool, and you will see this in the video, is that it will tell you immediately when you have something incorrect. On the capstone, you really don't get any feedback until after you submit it. This to some students is a good thing because they don't want to be constantly reminded of their mistakes as they move along. But to others, they like that immediate feedback so they can fix the problem right away. So in this case, I am rounding that capstone course score up twice to accommodate or compensate for that. All right, this is an overview of the Microsoft myitlab Microsoft Office assessment tool, and hopefully you'll find it worthwhile at the end of the semester.